Brilliant pit work, changing the two outside tyres, 1:32.95. The Southern Motors Valvoline Pontiac of Kim Jane did well, covering the 2 laps in 1:29.80. However, Jane incurred a 2-second penalty when a wheel nut was left loose. Denzel Mead in the Calder Computer Management Chevy Lumina was again hampered by pit stop problems, a time of 1:46.87 for the Goodyear Lightning Strike. Tasmanian Gene Cook in the Ausoil Falcon had pit problems with a stubborn front wheel. Cook, like Kim Jane, incurred a 2-second penalty for a loose wheel nut, 1:43.36. Reigning champion Brad Jones in the Kmart Tyre and Auto Chevy Lumina scorched around the track. Slick pit work also saw Jones grab pole position, 1:29.79, but he also copped a 2-second penalty for a loose wheel nut. Ken James was next in his brand new Pennzoil Toll Express Chevy Monte Carlo. A 4-second penalty, although his time was good enough to claim 4th spot on the grid. West Australian Speedway King Never Lance in the Slumber King Thunderbird had problems with a jack and rattle gun. Rookie Dean Wanless in the Wanless Metal Industries T-Bird had pit problems with the rear wheel and also copped a 2-second penalty. Last runner in the Goodyear Lightning Strike was John Faulkner, who'd qualified fastest in the Tech Oil Chevy. His pit stop was a disaster. When Faulkner let out the clutch, something broke, the car crawled away, and Faulkner relegated to 10th on the grid.
After the $5,000 Goodyear Lightning Strike team qualifying for the Bob Jane T-Mart NASCAR Grand Final, we found Brad Jones, 5 Neville Lance, along a surprise. Number 10, John Faulkner. Welcome to the commentary position, Brian Smith, and special comments, Steve Harrington.
Thanks, Gerald, and welcome to the first 50-lap race of this Bob Jane T-Mart's NASCAR Grand Final. For the first year, this year the final will be run over 2 50-lap races, where normally, and in previous years, a 100-lapper. Interesting to note, too, that Jim Richards in car number 1 and Kevin Schwantz in car 34 are starting from the rear of the grid.
The reason for that being that Kevin Schwantz had a huge qualifying accident and totally destroyed his car. He's starting from the rear of the grid in a brand new car. And Jim Richards was helicoptered in only minutes before the race, coming in from Tasmania and competing in the Targa Tasmania.
Interesting to note, Jim Richards has just completed his first lap and secured the 95-96 Bob Jane T-Mart NASCAR Championship. But now it gets down to pride and performance on the night. Jim Richards wants to come from the back of the field and win. Brad Jones currently out in front in the Kmart Chevy Lumina. Alongside him, Kim Jane, the Southern Motors Pontiac, and Ian Thomas in the Bright Eyes Chevy Monte Carlo, sitting in 3rd spot. And sitting in 4th spot is Dean Wanless, the new Rookie of the Year in the number 75 Ford Thunderbird.
Sparks galore there, Gerald. It looks like the 85 car is dragging its nose on the ground. Looks like a front suspension failure.
Denzel Mead from Tasmania in the Calder Computer Management Chevy Lumina in all sorts of problems. And as you said, it looks as though it is a suspension failure.
Very similar to that John Faulkner had in the Oscar race, Gerald. It appears to have broken a suspension component in the left-hand front.
Now, that would have been a frightening incident coming out of turn number 2 and onto the back straight. Lucky it happened early in that back straight.
He did very well to control it, yeah. He's just eased off the gas and kept the thing in a straight line. He's done really well.
Now back with the leaders, it's Brad Jones, the Kmart Atlantis Chevy Lumina, the number 8 car, and trailing him is Kim Jane in the Southern Motors car. And Brian, Kim Jane has been a very consistent racer over the last couple of years.
He certainly has, Gerald. Yes, Kim's always up there amongst the front runners in NASCAR. And Brad Jones, who won the Oscar title no less than 5 times at Calder Park Thunderdome, stepped up to the bigger cars. Hasn't had a huge year this year, but Brad Jones certainly making his presence felt on this race, the Bob Jane T-Mart's NASCAR Grand Final, race 1 over 50 laps.
Brad Jones just appears to be running very, very strong. And there's Ian Thomas on screen at the moment, currently in 3rd, and Wanless in 4th spot in that 75 Newcastle Metal Industries Ford Thunderbird. And Wanless really has had a great year so far, Steve.
Sensational year in the Les Small prepared car. He's been very consistent. He's had a lot of car speed as well, and he's showing that again this weekend.
Wanless's brother Todd Wanless won the Australian Sprint Car title just a month ago in Queensland. He has now taken out the Rookie of the Year title here at the Calder Park Thunderdome, and Wanless is looking for the inside line. We've got a spinner. It's Trevor Oliver in the number 33 Kirkman Transport Chevy Lumina. Will the yellow flags come out for the first time this evening here at the Thunderdome? We're waiting to see if the officials make the decision. There's the current leader, Brad Jones. He's looking good. The yellows aren't going to come out. Oh, Wanless has hit the walls. Wanless has hit the wall out of 4. The yellow's out, and we're going to be back after this break.
One of the Bob Jane T-Mart's NASCAR Grand Final, race 1 over 50 laps.
And Brad Jones still out in front. Dean Wanless sitting right on his tail. There's Ian Thomas doing a terrific job in the Bright Eyes Monte Carlo, number 2, while Ken James debuted a brand new car this weekend, and he has shown a good turn of speed.
John Faulkner's just passed Ken there in his Tech Oils Cummins Chevy Monte Carlo. He's on a mission at the moment, Gerald.
Yeah, John Faulkner well prepared. Bit of bad luck in the Oscar race. Can he make it up in the NASCAR race? Also coming into play right there now, Brian, is the Pepsi Max Chevy Monte Carlo of Kevin Schwantz.
We were saying before too, Gerald, that Kevin Schwantz and Jim Richards both started from the back of the grid, both making an impression at about a little more than half race distance in this first 50-lapper for the Bob Jane T-Mart's NASCAR Grand Final.
There he is, the former World 500cc champion Kevin Schwantz in that 34 Pepsi Max Clarion car. Ian Thomas, the team owner, sitting right on his tail, also in that Monte Carlo. And there's a third Monte Carlo of John Faulkner. Faulkner comes in, sitting right on their tail. A good little freight train here. And Steve Harrington, these drivers in this particular format will obviously be getting around the track a little bit easier when they're in Indian file.
That's correct, Gerald. The cars sitting behind the lead car, they're getting towed along. They're in the draft, so to speak.
And now that draft not only helps the cars. Oh, Thomas has got a little bit loose there. He got out of shape. He's got right out of the throttle, and the cars have just charged on by. That really would have been a heart-pumping moment.
It looked like the Tech Oil Chevy Monte Carlo of John Faulkner's may have just made contact with Tomo there.
Tomo's back on the pace now, though. There goes Faulkner. He's looking pretty in the 46 Tech Oils Cummins car. Schwantz looking good as well. Schwantz has made a great move up the field. In fact, he is sitting in 4th position after starting from the back of the field. Here comes Faulkner, round turn number 3 and into 4. James sitting right on his tail, out onto the main straight, the pedal to the metal. There's our leaders. The average laps around the Calder Park Thunderdome, somewhere around about 240 kilometres an hour. Steve Harrington, how fast right now?
280. There's, yep, 280 kilometres an hour.
It must be a thrill to drive these NASCARs around the 28-degree banked turns of the Thunderdome.
It's like nothing you've ever experienced before, Gerald. It is just sensational.
Now, as we see Brad Jones and Dean Wanless come into these turns, what sort of G-forces are on the body?
Approximately 4 Gs, Gerald, just on the turn-in point.
That's amazing. 4 Gs of pressure. There's a Pepsi Chevy Monte Carlo of Schwantz holding out Faulkner. James getting close to the back of Faulkner's car. Up the back straight yet again. We're on lap number 28, and these guys are looking very, very good, Brian.
Gerald, I was just thinking, and Steve could fill us in as to why those people who haven't seen NASCAR and Oscar racing before, the Oscars go in a different direction to the NASCARs. What's the reason, Steve?
NASCAR is a purpose-built left-hand drive super speedway car, and the aim is to keep the driver furthest point from the wall, so he's on the inside. With Oscar, they're right-hand drive, so they go the opposite direction.
NASCAR, of course, was born in the United States of America. It is the world's largest spectator drawing motorsport. And we see Kevin Schwantz in that Pepsi Max car leading that freight train across that start-finish line yet again. Schwantz is hoping to go back to the home, to the United States, and make a name for himself in NASCAR. As a motorcycle racer in the US, he's not really well known.
Interesting to note here, Gerald, it looks like this bunch of 4 or 5 cars are just feeling each other out. They're just checking out how their car's balanced and trying to form a strategy for later in the race after the halfway break.
And of course, Steve, while this is a tri-oval speedway, we've also seen NASCAR raced on road circuits.
Yeah, I mean, NASCAR's fantastic. It's got all the attributes of a good road racing car. It has plenty of power. It has slick tyres. It has great brakes. And a well set up NASCAR on a road circuit is a particularly nice car to drive.
We have got a report from race control. There's debris on the track, and we're going yellow.
Lap 45 of the Bob Jane T-Mart's NASCAR Grand Final, the first race over 50 laps.
And Brad Jones still looking comfortable there with Dean Wanless right on his tail. Richards has made a great move up the field. He is now up to position number 5 from the back.
That's a splendid drive from Jim. The car's obviously working well. His Dick Midgley prepared Pontiac Grand Prix.
But it's still Brad Jones and Dean Wanless. And Brian, this is a battle royale between these two, the master and the rookie.
Brad Jones, 5 times Oscar champion at Calder Park Thunderdome, now leading the way in NASCARs.
So Jones heading up the back straight. Wanless looking down the inside line. They're coming up on slower traffic. Wanless will duck in behind Jones this time around. And Steve, it's a time to play it cool.
Well, I agree with you, Gerald, but it looks like Dean's got his heart set on being the first car over the line for the halfway mark. Well, he's on a charge at the moment.
Well, Dean Wanless did say to me prior to this race that he sat back all season. He wanted to learn the ropes, and tonight is the night he's going to go for it, quite literally.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to have a dip now. I think we're only about a lap or 2 out, and Dean's certainly on a charge. Look, there you go, they've touched.
Oh, Wanless is gone. He's gone around. He's hit the wall. James has swerved to avoid him, but Wanless has put it all on the line, and it's all gone crunch.
Yeah, look, you can just see Dean's clipped Bradley on the way in, and he's hit the wall hard again. Look at that.
What about Ken James? He's turned left in the 01 car. He's just avoided all the trouble.
Now that brings the red flag out along with the yellow. This is the halfway mark of the 100-lap Bob Jane T-Mart NASCAR Grand Final. And Steve Harrington, the tactics here. None of the crews are allowed to actually touch the cars.
That's correct, Gerald. What happens is the cars go along and they stop on the back straight. The only form of communication they've got with their pit is via radio, so it can be very frustrating. They're not actually allowed to do any physical work on the car whatsoever.
Hang on, Steve. Brad Jones has stopped there. He's out of formation. The officials are waving him on. The officials approaching Brad Jones in the car, but it looks as though he is intending to stop exactly there.
What happened? What happened?
The way I see it is the pit lane was closed and the flag was out and I come in the pits. So now I've got a puncher and they're expecting me to start the race with a car like this. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, the situation is here with Brad that he has a punching tyre. Now what he must do is come into pit lane and remain there and not work on the car until the green flag is shown for the restart. They cannot start work on that car until the green flag is shown to start racing again.
As Brad Jones moves to his position, we'll be back after the break to see what happens. It's NASCAR Grand Final.
And this is part 2 of the 100-lap race here at the Calder Park Thunderdome. Brad Jones is in the pit area. We saw before the break the drama that unfolded here at the Calder Park Thunderdome. The crew couldn't touch the car until the green flag waved. The field is streaking away, but the crew on the Kmart Atlanta's car are working hard. They're replacing 4 tyres, and strategy-wise, Steve Harrington, this mightn't be the right move, because you must bear in mind that the teams still have to come in for a compulsory pit stop to replace 2 tyres.
I think you're right there, Gerald. The strategy would have been, in this case, I think, just to replace the damaged tyre and get back out without losing a lap. There you go. You can see that Bradley's lost a lap already.
Well, Kim Jane is doing a terrific job at the head of the field. Sitting right behind him is Jimmy Richards, and they're back. Just behind them, Kevin Schwantz, John Faulkner, and Neville Lance in that big bunch of cars. It's going to be a great race right to the flag, but bearing in mind the compulsory pit stop happens between laps 65 and 80. 2 outside tyres must be changed. When are the drivers going to come in?
We saw in the Goodyear Lightning Strike too the variance, the difference, the time differential, Gerald, between the really superior fast teams and the slower teams. So this race could hinge on that compulsory pit stop.
John Faulkner's Tech Oils, Cummins, Diesel, Chevy Monte Carlo looking extremely good there. There's our leaders. It's Kim Jane and Jimmy Richards. There's the Valvoline Bob Jane T-Mart in-car camera of Jimmy Richards right on the tail of Kim Jane as they come out of turn 2 and head up the back straight. Jimmy started at the back of the field. He's driven all the way. He's coming from second into first. This is a terrific drive, a fantastic drive.
Jim Richards has flown from Tasmania today, then dropped by helicopter at Calder, where he was competing, of course, in Tasmania in the Targa Tasmania. But now Jim Richards, in car number 1, is leading this grand final of the Bob Jane T-Mart's NASCAR competition.
They're on lap 55 here at the Calder Park Thunderdome, and Jimmy Richards has started from last. He is first. The battle is on in earnest. There are still 45 laps to go. Ken James goes under John Faulkner again, and that has proven to be a great battle so far tonight, Steve.
That's right, Gerald, but John just ran wide there into one, and his Tech Oils Cummins Monte Carlo was forced very high on the track, so he just lost a bit of car speed out of 2 there, and Ken was able to get past him.
Richards looking very good. The Dick Midgley prepared Valvoline Bob Jane T-Mart number 1 Pontiac. Former Australian Touring Car Champion, winner of the Bathurst 1000 5 times. Jimmy is just a master of motor racing and NASCAR. He loves this form of motorsport equally as anything else that he's ever done before.
It's such an exciting form of motorsport though, Gerald. The cars are so exhilarating to drive, and if anyone ever gets the opportunity, they should jump in the passenger seat and go for a lap of Calder Park Thunderdome, because it is unbelievable.
Looking in Jimmy's car again. He takes the inside line under traffic. There's Brad Jones. He's trying to get that lap back. He's only a couple of car lengths behind Richards and also Kim Jane. So this will be interesting to see if they will let Brad pass. I would imagine that they wouldn't really mind. They want to let him pass and get him out of the way.
Well, Bradley has a definite car advantage here, Gerald. As we noticed earlier in that pit stop, he took on 4 brand new tyres, so he has a definite advantage there, and he's on a mission. He's out trying to get his laps back.
Richards looking very good. Obviously what Brad Jones would be hoping for is to get in front of both Richards and also Kim Jane, then a yellow to come out. That would then put him on the inside line at the front.
That's correct. That's what Bradley needs. He needs to get back out in front of these cars, and he needs to pray for a yellow so that he can get that lap back, and then he can afford to race with the leaders again and try and get back on the lead lap.
Brad Jones has got past Kim Jane. Now he's looking for Jimmy Richards as they come again into turns 1 and 2. Richards looking good. Dick Midgley from Canada flies over for every meeting. Fantastic effort by his team to put this car on the track.
Yeah, Dick is a master of car preparation, and he's had a lot of success in Australia, and Dick and Jim have a particularly good working relationship. I'm just noticing here that Bradley's catching Jim quite rapidly, and I don't think that Jim's going to be in a position to fight with him. He's too wise for that. He'll just, I would think, pull over and let Bradley go.
While Bradley is a lap behind, Steve, he still has to pull in for that compulsory pit stop. And we saw in the Goodyear Lightning Strike just exactly how good his pit crew is.
Yeah, look, the Kmart Atlantis crew that Bradley has behind him are particularly good, but I think equally as important, he needs to get this lap back, which he's just, well, he's now back on the lead lap, so he's praying for a yellow now.
Now, the Goodyear Eagle tyres used at the Calder Park Thunderdome are a control tyre.
That is correct. Every NASCAR in the field is on exactly the same Goodyear Eagle.
So now Richards has let Brad Jones go. That Kmart Atlanta Chevy Lumina looking very good there. As the guys have said, he is on 4 brand new tyres, now hoping for a yellow. Bearing in mind, we're coming up to lap 65, and that is when the pit window is open, when a compulsory pit stop under a green flag must be made. Back in the field, there is Ian Thomas doing a great job in the number 2 Bright Eyes Chevy. But there is Brad Jones. Brad's slowing all of a sudden. Now that's interesting. Jimmy has taken back that spot. Brad goes a lap down yet again, and obviously there are major dramas for the Kmart team.
I'm not quite sure what's happening here, Gerald. It looks like Bradley's slowing up. He's almost coming to a stop. In actual fact, he's going to stop just near the entry to the pits on the exit of turn 4.
And Kim Jane has taken advantage of the window being open on lap 65. The Southern Motors car, the first one in under green. Now it's yellow. The yellows are out. We're coming back for a great finish here at the Thunderdome.
Back at Calder Park Thunderdome for the closing stages of the Bob Jane T-Mart's NASCAR Grand Final. Just 10 laps to go. Kim Jane is leading in car 27 from car 13, Gene Cook. And in third place, car 14, Neville Lance.
The interesting part here is that Jimmy Richards is sitting right alongside Kim Jane, but he got caught in the pit stops earlier, Steve Harrington. He came in under green, but he came in late. When the earlier drivers came in under green, Kim Jane, he got a yellow when he was in pit lane. He got an advantage. He didn't lose a lap.
That's right, Gerald. Jim's just unlapped himself here. He's back on the lead lap now, and he's almost a full lap behind, so he's got a lot of work in front of him to get back up to Kim. But just having a look at Kim's car there out of 2, it looked a bit loose.
Kim has been leading for 15 laps now, and this formation of Kim Jane, Gene Cook and Neville Lance have been like this for 15 laps.
Yeah, look at Gene, though. He's determined to get by here. He's really forced his way. Absolutely beautiful move in the Ostoils car there from Gene Cook. He really forced his way in out of 4.
And an interesting car too, Steve. It is a Falcon. We talk about Oldsmobiles, Chevys, T-Birds, all the rest, but Gene Cook's car is indeed an Australian Falcon. Yeah,
interesting to note that most of the NASCARs have very similar chassis underneath the bodies, but you're quite right. Gene's car does have a Ford body on it.
Now, Cook's got a little bit away from Kim Jane and Neville Lance. Lance's Slumber King Ford Thunderbird from Western Australia looking for his first win as well. Can Kim Jane hold him back there in third spot? Can he make a move on Cook? Cook is getting away.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It'll all get down to whose car's set better for the last 5 laps, and Gene's car looks to be handling the track conditions very, very well. But all Kimmy has to do is keep it low and make Neville go the highway around, and I think Kim's looking good for second place.
Cook is looking extremely good in the Ostoil Lubricants Ford. There's Jane, Lance right on his tail. Unlike other motorsports, NASCAR is different. The draft helps you. It speeds you up. Whereas when you're a single car, you should in fact be going a little bit slower.
Yeah, no, what's happening here is Neville has definitely been towed along by Kim, and as you can see, going down the back straight each time, and we'll have a look going into one here. Kim just drops down, takes the low line, and Neville sits about 1 out and 1 back, just sitting. You can see Neville just working his way up the track there a bit, and you'll see Kimmy move over again going into 3 for the first time, just covering his line.
But Gene Cook has the pedal planted firmly to the metal, and he is looking for his first win. Lance tries the inside line. Jane says no. It is Gene Cook leads him across the line. There's Kim Jane, but Cook is looking very good, the Ostoil car. Jane, again, the Pontiac. A Pontiac squeezed between 2 Fords. It's out of turn number 2 and up the back straight. They will reach in excess of 280 kilometres per hour before standing hard on those brakes and going into turns 3 and 4.
You can just see the Ostoil car of Gene Cook's there. It's working exceptionally good. And here's the white flag. 1 lap to go, Gerald.
Well, the emotion, Brian, in the car must be incredible. Gene Cook looks to be on his maiden voyage to victory.
I can look inside that car almost, Gerald, and see the big smile of genial Gene Cook as he's got half a lap to go to complete and to win his first race here at the Calder Park Thunderdome.
So Cook comes out of turn number 4 and onto the main straight at the Thunderdome. Who's going to take second and third? Cook's going to take the win. The checkered flag goes, and it's Kim Jane just ahead of Neville Lance. But there's the winner, the Ostoil Falcon of Gene Cook.
First over the line, Gene Cook. Kim Jane in second place. Neville Lance in third. Jim Richards.